All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 414 of the Restore and Rapport podcast. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family, trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way, according to God's design. My name is Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today we're going to be reviewing a video by Matt and Abby Howard. They're basically interviewing Dr. Auther Brooks, who is a happiness expert that's been going around the internet a lot recently. And I particularly want you guys to hear what he has to say about marriage in relation to the odds of you being happier if you get married. And we're going to talk about that and just kind of how that has impacted my life and proved true in my life as well. Absolutely. Like, a lot of people will make you seem like you are immature if you tell them that you were not happy as a single person. They'll say that, happiness is something you have to choose. It's not something that you will be able to get one day and that you can actually have it now. That's kind of the thread that they'll go down. But really, I don't think that proves true when it comes to your relationship status, because the Bible teaches that it's not good that man should be alone, and that he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord, and that Psalm 68 says that God sets the lonely in families. Families are the solution for loneliness. Marriage is the solution for loneliness. And to live in a perpetually single state when God has designed you for something else is going to have consequences on your happiness. And so you can't just say that, if you're not happy as a single person, you won't be happy as a married person. I've heard that a lot, and it's simply not true in my opinion. Again, with reference to those verses that I just gave you before, but also my own personal life experience. My life was not good. I was not happy. I mean, my life was good in the sense that I was making good choices, but I was not happy before I met my wife, because God had designed me to live as a married man and not as a single man my whole life. And so the sooner I was able to do that, the sooner I was able to experience the abundant life that Jesus talks about in John chapter 10. And so I just really want to encourage you guys today. You probably are, I would say like 90% of you, maybe even 95, 99% of you are intended for the road of marriage. Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 how everyone is given a gift, some for this thing, some for that. But the gift of singleness is not something that very many people have in the world today. And so I just want to encourage you, don't listen to people who are telling you that you're not going to be happy as a married person if you're not happy as a single person, because that's simply not the case. And so we're going to get into a happiness expert here talking about the benefits that marriage can have for you. And so without further ado, let's hear what Dr. Auther Brooks has to say. I've listened to this guy with my wife before, we really loved listening to him. And so I wanted to kind of give you a glimpse into the kind of stuff he talks about. So without further ado, we're going to try and cover a lot that he talks about today. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in.
She's my guru, and that's what we're supposed to do for each other. That's what you're doing for each other. That's why you're on earth. I mean, we're not supposed to be alone for the most part. I mean, there are people who do really well with a single vocation, to be sure, but most people don't. But why? I mean, what's the why of your marriage? I mean, there's a lot of practical whys, raising children together, it's a good thing and all that. But fundamentally, you're put together to perfect each other, and how do you perfect each other? By saying, man, Matt, this is what you need. I'm the person who knows you best. I think this is what you need. I mean, you're growing up together effectively. And sometimes you're making a mistake, and I'm the only one who can tell you, Abby, you're making a mistake. And you get this whole life together from 20, 21 until 100, and you get to actually figure it out together. That's the whole point. That's marriage.
Isn't there a lot of data about marriage and how you live longer if you're married and you're happier, I think, if you're married?
Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I'll just go ahead and pull that up for you here. Some of the data that I've been able to find by Brad Wilcox. He's a professor of sociology at the University of Virginia. He wrote a book called Get Married, Why Americans Should Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. And in that book, he has a PDF entitled The Enhancement. And it is basically a collection of data informing the general public of their odds of happiness And not even just that, it's a bunch of marriage stats should they choose to get married. And one of the things, figure 1.1, the first chart he actually has in this whole book is entitled Marriage Predicts Happiness Better Than Education, Work, and Money. And you can see it on your screen now. 64, having a college degree boosts your odds of being very happy by 64%. Having a high income boosts your odds of being happy by 88%. And being very satisfied with work boosts your odds of being happy by 145%. And being married is above all of those things. You can see it sitting right here at 151%. It boosts your odds of being happy. And then right here, this towering gray, Eiffel Tower on your right is the percentage that you're that you're more likely to be happy should you have a very happy marriage. 545%. You are 545% more likely to be very happy if you self-identify as having a very happy marriage. This is based on adults ages 18 to 55. Higher income refers to family income of equal to or more than $60,000 a year. Those in very happy marriages compare with those who are unmarried or in less than very happy marriages. Each model controls for race, gender, age, and the source is the General Social Survey conducted from 2014 to 2018. So just look at this, guys. All these things are good things: college degrees, higher incomes, being very satisfied with work, being married. But if you really, really want to boost your odds of being happy, then you need to have a very happy marriage. And marriage is not enough. You've got to have the good kind. You've got to have the good kind of marriage, because that's the kind of marriage that fixes all the problems that you're going to have as a single person, or even as a married person with an unhappy marriage. Okay. In a couple episodes ago, I talked about the benefit of a very happy marriage for sexual addiction, such as pornography addiction. And a lot of people will throw out the claim that marriage will not fix your pornography addiction. And I disagree, not exactly with that statement, but with the heart that comes from, because it's basically misdiagnosing the problem and prescribing something that doesn't work to singles, because marriage is the solution to sexual dysfunction. It's just that a good marriage is the only kind of solution to sexual dysfunction. So I would argue that the starving man is way more likely to, ingest dirty water than the man who has water. Okay. And so if you're in a weakened state, if you have nothing to drink, you're going to be a lot more likely to consume nasty water than you are if you have a refrigerator. Okay. And in much the same way, if you have the joys of a healthy married sexual relationship with a woman, you are much less likely to consume the unhealthy waters of pornography and other sexual addictions, like infidelity and adultery and stuff like that. And even fornication, I would say. And so just to be clear here, while marriage might not fix your pornography addiction, a very happy marriage will fix your pornography addiction. And so that needs to be the goal that we're pushing young people to strive for, instead of kind of encouraging to live in this perpetually single state, struggling with something because they're starving, basically, and they don't have the healthy sexual food that God has designed them for. And so, I think that's a misdiagnosis of the problem to say that marriage won't fix your pornography problem. And as you can see here, this isn't even in relation to pornography. This is in relation to just general happiness. And it really does boost your odds of being happy by a lot. Let's go down through here a little bit more, and I want to show you a little bit more of the stats that he has here, because it really is like good night. You earn more money when you're married too. That's not what I wanted to show you though. It's the one. Okay, here it is. Life for married parents is less lonely. I knew that one. Okay, here it is. Figure 3.4. Married men and women are happier. You can see in this graph the percentage of very happy by marital status and gender based on men and women ages 18 to 55. And this is also the General Social Survey, 2014 to 2018. You can see the dark gray is the married men and the married women. And you can see the light gray is the unmarried men and the unmarried women. So 40% of the married men are very happy, self-identify as very happy. 39% of the married women self-identify as very happy. Only 20% of the unmarried men self-identify as very happy, and only 23% of the unmarried women self-identify as very happy. So you can see women do slightly better than men, whether they're married, being unmarried, I should say. But it's still very, very close. Like it's not, and it's almost like it kind of doubles your odds of being happy. If you look at this graph here, for men, it literally doubles your odds of being happy. For women, it almost doubles your odds of being happy. And so it's like, I don't know, at some point, I think the the I think the statement that marriage won't make you happy, or the insinuation that there are other things in life that make you more happy than marriage, comes from being informed by trauma instead of by data. And people, because they have a poor experience with marriage, they put out narratives that are not necessarily true when it comes to empirical numbers. They put out anecdotal evidence. They put out their own life experience with people who have done marriage badly, but they don't have a good grasp of what marriage can do when it is done correctly, because they've simply never seen it in their life. And so they're perpetuating these false narratives by telling young people that marriage is not really a big deal. It's kind of an inconsequential choice. You can do it or you cannot do it. It doesn't really matter. When in reality, hang on a second, it does matter. It doubles your odds of being happy if you're a man, and almost doubles your odds of being happy if you're a woman. And so I just don't understand why we're robbing young people of this. And this is the reason I'm telling you all this, is this has actually transformed my life. God's road, when you choose to do it, again, is going to produce an abundant life that is so much better than anything the world could offer you, okay? Or than anything that any other alternative living style could offer you. And so I just want you guys to be super, super clear on that. And don't get discouraged when people, tell you things that don't sound like that. And so let's continue to see what Dr. Arthur Brooks says here. He's going to kind of tell you the same thing that I just did, and that is that marriage does make you happier, and it boosts your odds of being happy, supposing you're in a good marriage, actually.
Does marriage make you happier?
Yeah, for
It
sure.
does?
For
Okay,
sure.
good.
Now, a bad marriage doesn't.
Yeah,
A crummy marriage doesn't make you happier. So what you find is that for the big majority of people, marriage makes you happier, and for the minority of people who are really unhappy and staying married, it makes them much unhappier. Is what you find. Yeah, for sure. Because living with somebody who's driving you completely
Makes
insane,
sense.
that's not that great.
Well, it's also, and let's think about those people for a minute. So those people that are miserable in marriage are really advertising the fact that they're kind of selfish, because what they're saying is, I would rather have my way, and because I'm now in a relationship with somebody where I can't get my way, I'm unhappy. That's okay, I guess, but to me, that seems to be a very selfish individual, who is the person that's saying that. The person who learns the joys of sacrifice, of laying their life down for the next person and experiencing the intrinsic reward that comes through that service, is the person who's going to have the happy marriage, okay? And that's why I just don't, it's harder for me to tell young people that, sometimes you're more unhappy when you're married than you were as a single person, because really that's not even really true. It's really, a better way of saying that would be, you're only more unhappy as a married person than you were as a single person if you don't learn to grow up. That's really what it comes down to. If you don't learn to lay down your life for your friends, take care of other people, and learn to let people trust you and allow them to rely on you and be there for them and be responsible. If you don't learn those things, that's when marriage is more miserable than single life. But again, if you do marriage right, married life is infinitely better than single life. Okay, it's not even close. And there's this there's another false narrative going around that I'll tackle really quick, and it's that married people stop having sex. And let's just laugh at that really quick, because that is so untrue when it comes to the data and also just common sense logic. If you have a partner that loves you, and again, this is assuming you have a good marriage. If you have a partner that loves you and you have access to that partner constantly, 8 hours a day usually, then it would be foolhardy to say that that relationship experiences less sex than the guy who doesn't even have a romantic partner at all and is relying on either hookup culture or pornography to get his sexual needs met, both of which I would argue are a very much less than the best experience when it comes to married sex, because you have the opportunity to practice and get to know somebody really, really well and invest 100% of yourself into the sexual relationship, including your emotions. And that's simply something that pornography and hookup culture does not allow you to do. And so basically you just have more time. You can't pick up basketball and become an expert at basketball overnight. Sexual relationships are kind of the same thing. And so it's just like, I don't really understand people who say that people who are single have better lives than people who are married. That's definitely not true. And you can look at the data too. Married people who are married have sex way more, and they report higher levels of sexual satisfaction. And so that's just another myth busted for you. If you don't believe me, you can Google it. It's just common knowledge. I'm not even going to show you a source for that one, because literally everyone agrees who is actually taking surveys and looking at numbers. It's just people, again, who are relying on anecdotal evidence rather than empirical data to decide their opinion on this who are off, because they're looking at a small percentage, they're looking at their own life experience, and they haven't seen the people who actually have a good marriage. And so they're kind of broadcasting this negative narrative about marriage and married sex to the world. And so, yeah, let's continue to see what he says, though, here, because I definitely agree with what he said so far.
That's one of the reasons that people figure out that, or they decide that they've made a mistake. The 5-year point in marriages is always the dangerous one. You know, the culture says there's a 7-year itch. It's actually a 5-year itch. And that's when dissatisfaction tends to peak. And then what successful marriages have in common is that they have the peak of dissatisfaction because you're going from passion to companionship.
Okay.
Which doesn't sound hot.
Yeah.
I know, right? Doesn't. But companionate love has tons of passion in it. And once you actually understand that this is a lifelong, we're walking into the future hand in hand. It's just you and me. And you understand each other and you understand the complementarity between men and women. Then from 5 years on, things for most couples tend to get better and better because that companionate love gets deeper and richer.
Does that include like from the start of marriage, or like you first met and like started dating, or is it kind of generally around that mark?
So that this is measured because there's so much variance in how long people take to get married. This is usually measured from the beginning of a marriage, because that's something that's really tangible. It's like boom, that's the starting gun. But for a lot of couples, I mean, you would measure it from a different point.
I don't know. I'm trying to kind of, while he's running this ad there, kind of work out my opinion on this. Let's hear a little bit more of what he's saying, though, because I just want to hear more.
Is there something that you would, like one piece of like practical advice for a couple hitting that 5-year mark? Like what you would recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what I see is the big reason that they don't make it. I can tell you the real reason that they tend not to make it. It's that the husband and wife don't understand the one thing the other one needs. They think that the other one needs the same thing that they do, and that's wrong. Men and women are different. That's the fun. I mean, that's that's awesome, right? And that's because we're complementary. We don't substitute for each other, which is why you shouldn't compete with each other. Yeah. You're complementary to each other.
Absolutely.
And a lot of what men and women need is based in evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology, which is how we develop to be complementary to each other and as men and women. And what you find, according to the evolution, is that women need one big thing from their husbands. They need a lot of things from their husbands, right? I mean, they require respect and they require responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. But the one big thing that if they don't have, it'll wreck their marriage, they need to be adored by their husbands. And the evolutionary reason for that is that women, they make a big investment. I mean, being pregnant and feeding a child, I mean, that's a huge investment, and that requires commitment and protection from the mate. And so the way that that's shown is adoration. Like, baby, I would fight a tiger for you and only you. That's adoration, right? And if they don't feel it, it's a huge problem, because that signals a huge lack of commitment, and that's when a marriage really starts to falter. If they don't feel the adoration, the unique adoration from the husband. The husband needs admiration from his wife, uniquely from his wife. And that's basically, he'd fight a tiger, but what he needs to hear is, that is the biggest gazelle that anybody who's ever dragged into this cave. You are so big and strong. That's going to feed our family for 3 weeks. You're amazing. That's what he needs to hear, because evolution made him into the hunter, the provider. Now, again, women provide and men take care of kids. Don't get me wrong. I'm not getting into these like retrograde gender roles. No. But fundamentally, there is a wiring to this kind of thing. And men who don't feel admired by their wives, they stop adoring their wives. And women who stop feeling adored by their husbands stop admiring their husbands. And the cycle goes no admiration, no adoration, no admiration, no adoration. And that peaks at 5 years and then it goes down from there.
Okay, interesting. I think he's said enough for me to kind of review this here. And I do want to show you something else that I think is important. Okay, he's kind of saying that men and women need different things. They assume they don't need different things, that they need the same thing, and because of that, their marriages fail because they're meeting a need that their partner doesn't actually need. They're treating their partner like they would treat themselves, but they're not treating their partner in the way that their partner actually needs help. And I think he's got a point there. But I also want to throw out this here. This is just another. If you read chapter 9 of Brad Wilcox's book, that I mentioned earlier. Figure 9.1 as well says that wives married to men who rate high in masculinity are happier and less divorce prone. This is the percentage of wives very happy in marriage and not at all likely to divorce by whether they give a top rating for masculinity of their husbands, 9 or 10 out of 10. And so you can see here, very happy in marriage. Those usually feature husbands who are very masculine, described by their wives as very masculine, and then less than very masculine. It's just a small gap here, but you're slightly more likely to be very happy if it's actually the wives. Your wife is slightly more likely to be very happy if you are very masculine, and she would describe you as very masculine, which kind of makes sense because what is masculinity? Masculinity is what femininity is not. So it's kind of what she needs. She's already got the feminine man. Like, she doesn't need more of that. She's not trying to marry more femininity. She's trying to marry somebody who has things that she doesn't. And that's the beauty of marriage, is that you can provide for your partner what your partner needs from you and does not have without you. And so I think it just is kind of common sense. But this is an actual measurement. It's based on wives ages 18 to 55, and the source is the State of Our Union survey in 2022. So that is very, very recent data. That's within the last 4 years. And you can see down here at the bottom, this is the percentage of wives who are very happy in marriage and not at all likely to divorce. Right here, you can see that your marriage is also less likely to get a divorce if your wife sees you as, I'm sorry. Yes, if your wife sees you as very masculine, your marriage is actually less likely to end in flames if your wife sees you as very masculine. So I think, guys, just kind of what I'm getting from this chart is just like, be for your wife what she needs, and not, in other words, your masculinity is a good thing, okay? And that's another thing that's going around. People are, buying things like this toxic masculinity, phrase that basically says that everything that is man is bad, which is very, very not true, because we need good men, and women need good men. And you can see it here in the numbers too. Like this, they want good men too. They want a man. They want a masculine man, and those marriages are also more likely to succeed for wives ages 18 to 55. And so, I don't know, it's just be what your wife needs. Be a masculine man. Be strong. Be supportive. Be attentive. Be protective. Preside over the relationship. Provide for her. Make difficult decisions so that she does not have to. Basically, make her life easier in every way possible. Paul would say it, or First Peter would give the advice like, treat your wives as Christ treated the church. Like, lay your life down for your wife. Paul says, die for your wives. Husbands, die for your wives. And that's a very extreme command, at first glance. But really, what it's saying is like, you do everything that is needed so that your wife can live an easier life, is really what it's saying. You step up to bat so that she doesn't have to. It's kind of how I interpret those verses, and this data is just like, make your wife's life easier in every way possible and watch your marriage flourish, because it will. It will if you do that. And so that's just something else that women need their men to have. Let's continue to finish this, and we'll go to his next section here.
Couples that really have this together are the ones where, man, she really again, mutual respect and understanding that we live in the modern world. And, and my wife has always done all kinds of stuff to support our family as well. And I've done all kinds of things that I changed a lot of diapers in my time. I live with my grandkids now. I'm changing diapers still, which is the best, actually, because now I actually enjoy it. But the whole point is, if you break the adoration cycle, you're gonna struggle.
Wow, that's so good.
How do you reverse that?
You reverse that by deciding to be the person you want to be. Now, I give a lot of advice to young dudes, and they say, so what do I do? What do I do to stay in love? And the answer is, number one, adore her. I don't care how you feel.
Absolutely.
Adore her and be admirable. Because it's hard to admire somebody who's not admirable.
Amen.
Right?
Oh, gosh, this is such good advice. Did you hear that? Be admirable, because it's hard to admire somebody who's not admirable, and men need to be admired. And that's one of the things that makes it easy to keep their marriage intact for them. And then the wives, he said, young men need to adore their partner, adore her, everything she does. And it's not a feeling, you just choose to do it. Okay. And honestly, the feeling doesn't leave, in my opinion, if you keep making good choices. It's when you stop making those good choices that the feelings go away. And the second you start making good choices again, the feelings start to come back. And this is true in every area of life. Discipline beats motivation any day when it comes to the gym, your relationships, anything that you're doing. It's just like, get into the habit, build. James Clear has an awesome book called Atomic Habits, which I haven't read, but I've listened to interviews of him, and I know kind of what he talks about that in that book. And you just need to get in the routine. And if you don't know how to get in the routine, then get in the rhythm of small things and then slowly add to them, because it's the whole tiny steps is you're going to get higher than if you try to take great leaps, because it's more sustainable in the long run. So just get in the habit of admiring your wife in little ways every day, and then build up to the bigger ways. And that's how you keep your marriage really happy. That's as simple. I love that he said that. Really, really good.
And then you have me saying, yeah, but it's really hard to adore somebody who's not adorable. True. But you decide to adore her, and you decide to be an admirable man. And that means being impeccable to your morals, impeccable to your word, impeccable to your work.
I love it, because what you're saying is so countercultural from, I feel like, what we hear in the media, on social media especially, which is like, if you don't feel this, like, maybe it's time for the relationship to part ways. Like, maybe you're just not a good fit. Like, if you don't, like, it's all about your feelings. And if it feels wrong, if it's hard, like, if
you are saying that, you are never going to have a lasting marriage. You're never going to experience the joy of spending 60 years with somebody, because way before the 60-year mark, you're going to encounter a time where your wife or husband did something that did not make you feel good. Okay. And that you did not like what they did, or you're not feeling, romantic, whatever for them at this moment, probably because of the choices you've made, because you're an imperfect human. And at that point, if you throw in the towel, you're never going to get to the 60-year mark. So people who are led by their feelings are never going to experience a truly lasting and intimate relationship. They're going to experience kind of like a partial version of it, or a less than the best version of it, or an intimate relationship for a time, but they're never going to experience the, till death do us part relationship. They're never going to have that because they're bailing as soon as it gets difficult, or as soon as their feelings aren't invested. And so again, terrible, terrible idea. Like, the people who are the most disciplined and the best at their field, let's take this, let's use the Olympics as an example. Somebody who is an Olympic medalist, they're not led by their feelings, okay? Because it's very, very hard to do the training that they do. They are led by discipline, okay? They are led by self-control. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That is a scriptural thing. Self-control, when it leads you, is going to lead you to much greener pastures than if you are led by your feelings. Because again, you'll never actually stick out long enough to get the harvest. You'll just quit during the sowing period, and you'll never reap a harvest, because you've basically haven't stuck around and got over the hill, so that you could see the green valley on the other side. You're just kind of going to miss everything. It's kind of like you kind of just it's like if you're motivated by your feelings, if you're led by your feelings, you're just going to kind of keep going up hills and rolling back down, You're never going to actually crest the hill and get to the joy on the other side, because you're just constantly pulled down by your feelings whenever it gets hard. It's the guy who just disciplines himself to bike up the hill, even when he feels all that resistance, that gets to coast down the other side, man. And so I would just encourage you, don't let your feelings control you to the point that you miss out on the joys of a truly lasting and intimate relationship. Instead, be led by self-control and discipline, because that's what the fruit of the Spirit is. Really, really, really good.
I was listening to a podcast, and you were talking about how, it doesn't necessarily feel good when you work out, but it's good for you.
Yeah, totally.
So why do we look at marriages and relationships differently?
Yeah. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, marriages grow through suffering.
Yes.
Because we all grow through suffering. Suffering is your teacher. Mm-hmm. Suffering is your teacher. You've suffered. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've talked publicly about your suffering. That's your teacher. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you didn't have any suffering, you wouldn't actually understand many, many important things about life, and you wouldn't be able to help anybody else. You'd be terrible parents, be the worst parents ever. It's like, I don't know. Life's always been really good for me, so I don't know what's wrong. What's up with you, Junior? I mean, it wouldn't be helpful.
Yeah.
And so understanding that a great part of your growing up together is the suffering that you have by trying to get along with each other and the difficulties that you actually have, that you need this. And so the idea of like, I'm not feeling it. Good. That's your opportunity to love each other more deeply, notwithstanding your feelings. Your feelings are liars.
Yeah.
Your limbic system lies to you all the time. Feelings, all they are, emotions, all they are, is a processing of signals that you're perceiving in the exterior from around you. So your most reptilian brain, it's more than 40 million years old. You have it in common with snakes and lizards. It perceives stuff. It sends data to a newer part of your brain called the limbic system, which is still pre-human, and that translates these signals into emotions. All emotions are your perception signals of what's going on around you below your level of awareness. You have 4 negative emotions: fear, anger, disgust, and sadness. Only 4. And all of them have been evolved to give you signals about different threats.
Did they come up with those from the movie Inside Out? I'm guessing like some psychologist at Harvard was like, hey, Inside Out's a great movie. We should base everything off this movie.
It turns out that maybe the movie got it from, but anyway, either way.
I'm sad to admit that's the first thing that it triggered.
I know. Yeah. And that was a really useful movie for that too. And there's some argument about what the basic emotions are, but generally speaking, the 4 negative emotions just are what they are. The positive emotions are a little bit more contested. There's a little bit more argument among neuroscientists, but they're generally joy, right, of interest, and surprise. Most of surprise is like, surprise. I mean, there are bad surprises, like your lawyer's on the phone. I mean, that's, but most of the time, surprise is like, all humor is based on surprises. There's a little tiny thing in your limbic system called the parahippocampal gyrus, and it's all how you resolve surprise, and it makes you laugh. So all jokes are.
All that is super interesting to me as an SEL teacher, because I'm basically teaching children how to manage their emotions in constructive and healthy ways. So basically talking about what the 4 negative, emotions are behind every negative emotion is very interesting to me. I want to skip to the another part of the video for you guys though, and that's right here where he's going to talk about why you shouldn't live. He's going to make the claim that you shouldn't live with your partner before you get married, and I want to hear what he says here.
Practice your marriage. And the reason that it tends not to be great is that typically the reasons for living together are different between the woman and the man. And there's a bunch of estimates that suggest that up to 95% of cohabiting relationships end in dissolution, not in marriage.
Well, here's something I want to show you guys. Everybody throws around a 50% divorce rate, which is a myth. We have never hit a 50% divorce rate in the history of this country. That was a projection that was done in the 70s that never turned out to be true. So anytime somebody tells you that we have a 50% divorce rate today, you can just, graciously let them know that actually we've never had a divorce rate that high. That was a projection that was done, 50 years ago, that is not 55 years ago, that is not actually, bearing itself out now in the future. And so I just want you guys to know that, because people make decisions about whether or not they want to get married, and even, it informs their beliefs on, prenuptials and things like this. And it's kind of like they're starting from a factually incorrect starting point. They think that you're more likely to have a broken marriage than you are. And it's like, no, you're not as likely to have a broken marriage as you think, number one. And also personal responsibility here. You control what side of that number you're on. And so, yeah, don't make a decision about whether or not to get married based on that incorrect statement that 50% of marriages end in divorce. And even if 50% of marriages did end divorce, can you imagine the number of cohabiting relationships and dating relationships that end in separation? Because that's going to be way higher. Number one, because it's easier to do. It's easier to end a cohabiting or dating relationship than it is to get a divorce. Okay, it just is. Number two, people who at least step over the line of marriage and heap on themselves consequences should they choose to withdraw from it, are way less likely to even enter that commitment if they think that there's a possibility it's going to end. And so, this is the problem with dating and cohabitation. It is a very non-committal thing. Like, it's not actually it's not reinforced by social and religious boundaries or even conscience boundaries. It's kind of like people treat it as discovery process that can end at any point. It's kind of like an experiment. They just figure out, if it works or not, and then quit. And that's the antithesis of what marriage is. Marriage is you make a decision and you get rid of anything in the way. Dating is like you just see if it works out, and if things get in the way, you give up on your relationship. That's what dating and cohabitation are generally treated as in the world today. And so which one of those is more likely to end? Just ask yourself, is marriage more likely to end, or is a dating relationship? And you can even see this in, I'll just give you some anecdotal evidence as well. I don't have any empirical data for you here, but I'll try to find some in the future. It's kind of hard to find exactly what I want, the comparison between exactly what I want, but just listen to this though. I know like every single young person in my life who has, been in, heterosexual relationships has way more breakups than they do divorces. Okay. Every single one of them. And this is true of myself. This is true of my wife. This is true of all of our friends. This is true. Like everyone always has more non-committal separations than they do committed relationship separations. Everyone. That's universally true in my experience. And again, this is an anecdotal story. Like this anecdotal evidence. This is just my opinion because this is based on my life experience. I'll try to get you some numbers on this, but I mean, I would be curious to hear what your life experience is on this issue. I imagine it's the same as mine, just because logically, again, it's easier to get out of dating and cohabiting relationships than it is to get out of a marriage. And so there's going to be more failed cohabiting and dating relationships than there are marriages. And also people who, see that relationship potentially ending don't get married. What they do is they choose the easier, absolution relationship, and that's cohabiting and dating and stuff. So permanent dating, I should say, because again, you got to define terms here, because dating is always necessary in the sense that you've got to spend time with your partner one-on-one, getting to know each other and that kind of, that's how bonding and stuff, that's how you get to marriage. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who enter a defined relationship, like we're boyfriend and girlfriend, we're exclusively boyfriend and girlfriend now, but then they're not moving towards any goal other than that. That's who I'm talking about here. Those relationships end a lot more than marriage. Again, because it's easier for them to end. There's less consequences when they do end. And those are the relationships people enter when they don't know whether or not they want to stick around with somebody for the rest of their life, basically. And so let me know what you think of that. But that's definitely my experience. And I 100% agree that you should. And yeah, that's just, in my opinion, the way it is.
Interesting.
95%. Okay. So
95?
Yeah. So 19 out of 20 couples wind up not getting married, and one of the 20 gets married.
Okay.
And that's what I've seen. And again, this is all over the map, because this is not like settled science like this. But there's a reason why it tends to be a mistake. When a couple moves in together in their mid-20s, for example, typically, and again, everybody's results may vary. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just looking at the broad patterns. The woman thinks it's a step toward marriage, and the man thinks it's a bulwark against breakup. And that difference is really, really dangerous. So they're like, we're gonna move in together, because otherwise I'm gonna get an ultimatum from her, and I don't want the ultimatum from her, like marriage or bye-bye. And he doesn't want to break up because he loves her. And she thinks that this is actually a step toward marriage. And if he's doing it to not break up, that's not a step toward marriage. It isn't. And so that's a misunderstanding, and now we're living together. And that can go on for a really, really long time and lead to some big problems. You live together for 6 or 7 or 8 years, and she's like, so when are we getting married? When are we getting married? When are we getting married? And he's like, at least we're not breaking up. That's not the basis of a stable relationship.
But again, the guys are the problem there. I mean, I'm not trying to like slam it or condemn anybody in this situation. Like I'm not interested in doing that. But what I'm interested in doing is coaching young people who want a good, lasting marriage. And if you want an actual a romantic relationship that lasts 60 years, you don't want to be in a connection with somebody who doesn't even know if they want to spend the rest of their life with you in a committed covenant, because all that's, that statement the guy made there is like, at least we're not broken up. It's like, dude, we've known each other for plenty of time. If you don't know whether or not you want to marry me at this point, it's like, that's a major red flag on your end. And so I would just encourage you guys, again, don't get into committed relationships or emotionally invested into people who have not given you any indication that they want to, spend the rest of their life with you. Like, you need to know exactly where your partner stands. You need to know You don't need to be like, I think my partner wants to get married. I think my partner wants to spend the rest of my life with me. I hope my partner wants. That should not be what you. That is already a red flag. Like, you should know beyond the shadow of a doubt, because of your partner's actions and words, that your partner is quickly moving towards the goal of connection with you because he knows what he wants. Like, that's the kind of relationship that's going to be relaxing for you, and that you're going to be able to enter confidently. You don't want all this. It's basically living in. You have no idea what to expect. It's like totally unpredictable, and that's the road to being miserable, in my opinion. So definitely don't get invested with people that are non-committal and don't tell you exactly what you need to hear to feel confident in in your relationship, and know that it's going to actually happen.
At all. So that's one of the reasons that for a lot of couples is better not to live together. You also find that your likelihood of actually having a successful marriage go down after having lived with more than one person. In other words, you don't get better at it. Things actually tend to get worse. A lot of this is from the work of Brad Wilcox, who's a sociologist at the University of Virginia. And he runs this great program called the Institute for Family Studies, pure social science, no moral judgment, just the patterns. Now, to your question though, we do know the age range where people are most likely to stay married.
Okay.
And that's when they get married between 28 and 32.
Interesting.
I know, way older than you, and way older than my kids.
Yeah, we're both not even in
I know,
that
you're not
age
even, and my kids, I have 3 kids. They're 22, 25, and 27. My 25 and 27-year-old, they got married at 22 and 23, respectively.
Wow.
And they started having their kids at 23 and 24. So they're 27 and 25, and they have 4 kids between them, right? And they married, young, like you. I mean, they more or less like you, a year older than you. Fantastic. And so the reason for those data is they're not prescriptive. It's not that 28 to 32 is the magic zone. It's just that culturally, that's where most people, they feel like they have a mature attitude toward marriage. You can be completely different because you can have a much more mature attitude toward marriage much younger if you decide to do
Absolutely. Yeah, I've told you the story before about that kid who's 12 years old, and he was given, command of a ship. And he literally was the captain of a ship, and he was 12 years old. And that's kind of an extreme example, but my point is, like, there are people who, it's kind of the whole age is not equal to maturity thing. Like, I know 40-year-olds who are, awful spouses. They're totally immature. And I know, like, 15-year-olds who are very incredibly mature and have a great outlook on marriage and stuff. And one of those, the 15-year-old is more likely to have a better marriage than the 40-year-old, simply because of the maturity level and the selfishness level. Okay, so it's just like, I don't know, what's the word? Like, I'm hoping that because you're listening to this show, you are, trying to and already have the outlook on marriage that is the mature outlook and not an immature outlook. And that's why I'm trying to give you the advice that I am. I may give different advice to somebody who had an immature outlook on marriage, but I'm giving advice to people who have a mature outlook on marriage in this show. And so I think that's an important distinction too. Like, when I say get married young, it's better to get married young and have more time with your partner. I'm not talking to somebody who is literally unwilling to provide for his girl and is wanting to marry her. It's like, no, you got to solve problem A first before you get to problem B. You got to have a way to take care of your wife. It's like, that's just common sense. You got to be willing to take care of your wife. That's step one. So, like, I don't know. But I do think that, in an ideal situation, when both partners do have that maturity and that, good, healthy vision of marriage, then it is better to get married younger. We have pushed marriage 7 years further into the future than we did in 1960 on average. In 1960, the average age of first marriage for men in this country was about 23 years old, and the average age of first marriage for women was about 20. Today, it's about the national average age of first marriage for men in this country is about 30 years old, 29, 30, and the average age of first marriage for women in this country is about 27. And so, yeah, people are getting married way later, which might also be why we're seeing a lot of a lot of success. And I haven't looked at these numbers, so don't confirm me on this, but that might be why your marriage is most likely to succeed if you are 28 to 32, which is the ages he just gave, I think. So it's probably because a lot of people are getting married in that time. I don't know though. You go check out the IFS Institute for Family Studies. I just cited Brad Wilcox for you 5 seconds ago and showed you some of his work. I really love his work. He's like one of my heroes right now. He's just so good at this. But yeah, let's read his last connection, or not connection. let's talk about why let's go down here and talk about why marriages fail. Actually, let's talk about the best time to get married. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
I think the bigger problem in our society today is marrying too late, not marrying too early.
Right,
now, if you
absolutely.
got married at 16, I'd be like, I don't know. It's like, running off to, some state where it's legal. I don't know. That's not the. It's like,
Probably like Arkansas.
or like her
say
dad,
Arkansas?
her
I
dad
don't
is
know.
behind you with a shotgun or something.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
but 21, 22. If you've got your act together and you're understanding what this is all about, and you have a supernatural understanding in particular of what this union really is, that's not too young.
I've heard you say a couple times like successful marriage, and it has me questioning like how do you measure a successful marriage?
So a successful marriage, I mean, technically it means you're staying married.
Yeah, okay, we're like, well, we're together.
Because it's kind of a 0-1 deal where 0 is not married and 1 is married. And so
Yeah.
successful marriage, you look at my marriage, I've been married, yesterday was my 34th wedding anniversary. And so, congratulations. That's obviously a successful marriage, because it's like, there's no chance that I'm going to be like, honey, it's been great, but let's face facts. I mean, there's like no way that that's actually going to happen. I mean, it's going to be till death do us part. Now, that said, there's an explosion in my field in what's called gray divorce. Gray divorce is when you break up after 25 years. That's been going through the roof in the last 10 years.
Really?
Why?
Yeah. And there's tons of
In my experience, the reason that's been happening, I've seen this happen a couple times, and the reason that's been happening is the connection suffered. And because the connection suffered, usually that's when things like becoming engrossed in work or infidelity and adultery start to take root, is because you start turning to other things and people to meet the needs that your spouse was originally supposed to meet and did meet when you had a healthy connection. And because the connection has fallen into disrepair, the partners are then looking to other things to satisfy their needs. And that's when, the marriage is already over, because they're not even on the same team anymore. They're not each other's number one. They're not, relying on each other and taking care of each other and laying their life down for each other. They're going against Scripture at that point, just because the connection is in disrepair. And so this is why it's so important that you never let your connection with your partner get to that point. And you make sure that everything you're doing is strengthening your connection and nothing is detracting from your connection. And if there's anything that's detracting from your connection, you need to get rid of it with a passion. And so that's the way to keep your marriage protected, is get rid of anything that's, any of the rust, any of the weeds, any of the problems that are detracting from your ability to connect with your partner. And so really love this video so far. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here in just a second, because we've been going a while, but loved Arthur. I just love Arthur Brooks, man. Dr. Arthur Brooks, every interview I hear of him is just so good. And like absolutely on point as far as what he's, the perspective he's giving. He's well educated. He has the numbers. He's worked with a lot of couples before, so he has anecdotal evidence and he knows empirical data. And he's been married, what did he say, 34 years. He has his own personal experience. He knows how to stick around. He makes good choices. I mean, it just seems to be an awesome guy. Really love reviewing his stuff. So check him out for sure. Let me know what you thought of the things Dr. Arthur Brooks said in this episode through the link in the YouTube comments, or Facebook or Instagram private message to the show. We would love to hear from you guys. Make us feel super connected to you guys as honest members, and it would make the podcasting system two-way. Thank you so much for listening today. God bless you, and I will talk to you guys next time.